So here we are, the worst books that I read in 2025. Before I start, I do want to just get some disclaimers over and done with, some things of note, shall we say. Firstly, I just want to say that these will likely contain spoilers, all these books I mentioned. I try not to spoil, and I will try not to, but I can't 100% guarantee that. So therefore I have, or rather I will, be leaving a description of all the books I mentioned in that order down below, so go and check that out if you're not sure. Feel free to skip ahead on certain parts if you see I have like a picture of the book here or something, and obviously skip ahead until you see something that doesn't spoil it for you. I can never 100% guarantee in my videos that my videos will be spoiler free, but I do try where I can to include all of the books that I mention. In fact, I do that, to be honest, in most of my videos. I don't think that there is one where I haven't. If there is, let me know, but I don't think there is. Just bear in mind that a lot of these books, in fact all of the books I mentioned, will likely have trigger warnings, so please go check that beforehand. If you're someone that can't read about a certain subject, or just can't be dealing with that right now, totally understand, but I can't list all of them, okay? So please go and just check that. I don't know all of your triggers, so therefore I can't inform you fully. The list I do is in no particular order. They may contain 1 or 2 star ratings. I don't think there's any with 3 stars or above, because I don't think that would be classed as my worst ever. I will tell you the ratings. So at the end of the video I will say what was crowned the worst book of the year, which is not an achievement, but maybe it is. Last but not least, these are just my opinions, so please don't take offence. If you loved the book or hated it too, it's absolutely fine. It's just a bit of fun, it is what it is. You put your book out there and people will judge it. If you put it out in public domain, well, people are free to do that, as long as they're respectful and not personal, which I won't be. I don't think I will. I don't know, who knows. Right, let's just go on with it. The first book I'm going to mention is called The Wrong Woman by Daniel Hurst. Now, I gave this a 1 star. What was this about? I can't really remember. I actually, when I did my list, I was like, a lot of these books obviously I read in the earlier part of the year, so I don't remember a lot about it. So these are just taken from my notes, so bear with me while I try and re-jog my memory a little bit. As always, I'm always very professional on this channel, like kind of wing it with these videos. I don't know if you've noticed, I just wing it a little bit. I have some rough notes sometimes and I just end up winging it. I feel like that works for me, but I know for some people they'd like have a whole script. You're not here for that. Let's talk about The Wrong Woman. This is by, I presume, a male author, because the name Daniel, I mean, it might not be, but I just have to make presumptions, so if I'm wrong then fair enough, I'll put my hands up and you can all kill me. No, I'm joking. The Wrong Woman is about a woman called Simone, and Simone kind of has this business going on where she uses her services to help other women find that, or rather discover if their partner, spouse, boyfriend, whatever, is cheating on them. So she kind of presents that kind of service, and she kind of flirts with them and like tries to see if they'll be tempted to cheat on her, basically, and women pay her to do this. I think that's right. If they are found guilty, then she offers an extra service where she can exact revenge on these partners. So sometimes that will involve just harming them and scaring them a little, but most of the time it will involve killing them. On paper you think like, that is my cup of tea, right? Like that is right at I love kind of like femme fatale men killers. I don't know what that says about me, but I don't know, I just like it. I have fun with it. I don't know, guys, you do the psychology. I just love those kind of books. But this wasn't it. This no. I don't know whether it was because it was wrote whatever by a man, by the male species. I don't know if maybe that's what it was, and maybe he didn't quite understand what it's like to be a woman. I feel like he just projected what he thought that kind of experience might be like, without actually kind of really, I don't know, talking to a woman about it. I don't know, like it just didn't come across very well. That's all I can say about it, really. And there was a bit in the book, it's all coming back to me now as I'm talking about it, but there was a bit where I quite remember the details of this, and maybe it's good that I can't, because it could be a spoiler anyway. One of the characters, the FMC, she gets a job at a place. It's like an office place, a marketing place, I don't know, some bougie place, right? And the hiring, or the manager, hires her, but she does note on her CV there's a lot of discrepancies, and she's like, oh, that's weird, I'm gonna hire her and find out what she's about, because that's really odd. Instead of just like not hiring her because she seems suspicious, she hires her to try and figure her out. Like, sorry, are you an undercover detective? Like, why are you taking on that extra work? Like, it's really bizarre, and that's why I couldn't get behind it, because the sort of ending goes like that. This woman, this manager, is like, haha, I knew it was you all along. I knew it was you killing these men. I knew it was you who like did all this stuff. Like, I knew it was you because I've been watching you for a long time at work and like low-key obsessed with you for like really no reason. I was like, yeah, that's kind of bullshit. Like, I just don't know anyone, I don't know any manager that has enough time to do that kind of thing. So I called that out because I was like, that's not realistic. The main character, what's her name again? Simone, I think it's her name. I don't know where I got that name from. It's on my notes as Simone. It must be Simone. Simone, she kind of did this thing where she would keep going on about her previous kills all the time, and it got a little bit boring. I don't know whether that was intentional, now I'm thinking about it, to like desensitize the reader. Yeah, we get it, you killed someone, like you don't have to keep going on and on about it. Like, it got a little bit jarring. It was just boring, and honestly I gave 1 star of it because I just remember the ending, like the manager manages to suss her out at work and is like, I know what you are because of your CV, and I decided to hire, basically she's onto her, and I'm like, that's really shit. I just didn't like it, and I think I was really disappointed with this because I thought it was going to be like a cool thriller, but it just ended up being a pile of, it's definitely one of the worst books I read this year. A lot of these you'll probably notice from vlogs that I did, wrap-ups, all that kind of thing, and if you have watched them you'll be not surprised at all of how I felt by this. It is of course Shallow River by H.D. Carlton, which I gave 1 star to, and that's very generous of me. Guys, this was actually offensively bad. Like, it was so bad. I literally said fuck off when I was reading it. I went fuck off. I was fuming at this. So H.D. Carlton, I have a very weird relationship with this author because I quite liked the Haunting Adeline series. I know a lot of people don't like it, a lot of people have called it out, a lot of people say, oh my god, you're so toxic if you like that, like what are you doing? But I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it. Okay, you see what I'm saying? I thought, well, why not read her backlist? Bad mistake, because every single book apart from those 2 books of Haunting Adeline and the spin-offs that she did, I literally hated. Like, I fucking hated. I don't know why I'm telling you what this is about anyway, because hopefully I'm putting you off reading these books. I'm like worried that I'm doing spoilers, but hopefully you're kind of on the same page as me and you're like, that sounds fucking awful, or you read it and you go, yeah, like girl, I know what you mean, like that was awful. Anyway, this is about a female character called River. Now she leaves a place called Shallow Hill and meets a guy called Ryan, who turns out to be an abusive prick. Now Ryan has a brother, think his name is Marco, and I think he's an older brother or younger, I can't quite remember, but he has a sibling basically, he has a brother, and she ends up kind of falling for him, but he's a detective. Because he's so abusive, she ends up him almost immediately after she does such a thing. Do you know what she does? And I'm sorry, guys, call me out, as I always say. I think she's actually batshit insane because, okay, yeah, killing someone is kind of insane, but then she does this thing, and okay, you could say, well, self-defense, you know, he was an abuser. You can almost excuse it, almost. But then you do what she does. Now, when I say this, I'm going to sound homophobic. I'm not homophobic. Oh my god, I'm not homophobic. Trust me, I love LGBTQ+. I love all that. Supporter, ally, love all that. This fucking pissed me off, right? So I felt like it was queer baiting a little bit. So no, I'm straight, so you know, guys, call me out. Am I insane for this? Because literally right after she did that, she, you know, killed her abusive I don't think it was her husband, boyfriend. She calls up his ex-girlfriend, and it's like, hey, can we just like hang out? And his ex-girlfriend's like, okay, you know, like as you would be, like, sure. She's like, I don't think she even asked that. She's like, I can't quite remember the details, but I know she didn't really know her beforehand. And then she's like, oh my god, this is really urgent, I need to speak to you. And she's like, okay, like come around, I guess. And so they meet and they kind of trauma bond together because she finds out that he was also shock horror abusive to her, the ex-girlfriend. So they kind of bond. And this isn't something that takes weeks or months or years, by the way. This is like as soon as they meet, right? Very intense. And guess what they end up doing? They end up having intimacies, you know. I don't want to say too much because of YouTube and I don't know how much I'm going to be censored, but you get the idea. And I'm like, I have no problem with, you know, gay sex, whatever. I'm all for it. But that felt very kind of just like to satisfy, I don't know. Guys, is it me? Like, I just felt like it was there to satisfy and shock. Like, well, not even, who's it satisfying? No one. But they were like, oh, that felt good after. Like, we needed that. And I'm like, what? Guys, you need therapy. You don't need to be fucking each other. Like, guys, is it me? Is it me? Because I'm like, that's insane. That's insane. That's insane. Like, I'm sorry, is it me? Tell me, because I did read reviews after who also said the same thing. So I was like, thank God, because honestly, I hated that. And it wasn't because it was girl on girl action. It was nothing to do with that. It was because it was just so out of place and it didn't make any fucking sense. And this is what this book was like, by the way, all the way through. None of it made sense. The characters were literally horrible people. So this is a story very much about domestic abuse and, you know, abusive partners and, you know, very real subjects, very, you know, sensitive subjects. This author did not handle that well at all. Like, it was a big fuck you to people that were going through that. That's not how you do it. And I get it, this is meant to be a dark romance, this is meant to be a bit smutty, I do get that, but I feel like this author or this book, I don't know what she was doing, but she was just throwing in sex scenes where they just made no sense. They made absolutely no sense. It was like she literally just thought, she wrote the sex scenes and then just put them in randomly. It made no sense. It made fucking no sense. And I hated it. I fucking hated it. You know, I think honestly this is the worst book of the year, maybe, actually, because I remember just being like, I don't know how I finished that book. Luckily it wasn't a very long book. That's enough of that book, because I'm actually getting angry for no reason. The Covent Garden Ladies by Harleigh Rubenhold. I gave this 2 stars. This was very disappointing for me. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it, hence the 2-star rating. Now, if you don't know already, a 2-star rating for me is like, I personally did not like this, but for someone else who's into this subject or into these tropes, I know that they may like it. So it's not that bad where I'd be saying don't read this, even if you're into this kind of thing. Like, I didn't find it offensive or anything, it's just not for me, but I understand that other people would get something out of this, so therefore I can't really give it a 1 star. But yeah, this was just very disappointing. This is about 3 people who were very infamous around the time in 18th century Britain, but specifically more obviously London, because Covent Garden is in London. Now, this is about a list, and it's called the Harris's list, and it had a list of names and like addresses, I think, of like a list of sex workers, female sex workers in the area. And it was basically a guidebook. I hate to say that, but I don't know how else to say it. It was a guidebook of sex workers during that time, and obviously wealthy men or men that were interested in these kind of services could look them up and look for someone specific. So I don't know, you want someone in your 40s, you want someone young, you want someone, you know, you get the idea. I don't need to give you, I'm sure you understand. So yeah, and I thought this would be interesting because I still haven't read this author's other book, which I know has got a lot of traction, and that's called The Five, and it's about Jack the Ripper's victims. I still haven't read that. It's on my TBR. It is to be read. But I just kind of, I don't know what made me want to look at this. I think I must have seen some of the booktuber mention it, and I was like, that sounds good. And obviously I've only just got around to reading it. But yeah, this was just more disappointing. I just found it boring, and I didn't like the writing style. I just did not get on with it, and I was very disappointed because I wanted to like it, and also I just felt it was very long in parts, and I just felt like, I'll admit, going in, I didn't know anything about this, to be honest, and I come out of it not really still knowing a lot about it. And I don't necessarily blame this author, because I do think I'm just that kind of person that if I do read non-fiction, it has to be told to me in such a way where you're almost telling a dummy about stuff, you know, because, or an alien, because especially if I go in not knowing much about subject, I need it to be a little bit like dumbed down for me. I do, you know, maybe that's a me problem. I was just bored, guys. I was bored. I'm sorry. I feel like I say that a lot in my reviews, but sometimes, like, that's the thing. If books are boring, if they don't hold my interest for long, they put me in a reading slump, and then I blame the book. If the book's boring, it's boring, it's dull, like, I'm sorry. Like, then we have The Housemaid by Sarah A. Denzil, not the one by Frida McFadden. So I gave this 2 stars, and this is about a old estate manor house in the UK, in England, I think specifically. I don't know where to start with this. Imagine like Downton Abbey mixed with, like, I don't know, like a modern version Downton Abbey, basically. It's set in present day. Like, we had a housekeeper called Mrs. Huxley. There's all these big secrets, and she comes in, I haven't said who the FMC is, I can't remember her name, but the FMC comes into this place as a housekeeper, right? She wants a job, so she takes this at this like manor house. Now, her mum, ages and ages ago, I think her mum's dead, but she used to work there, and so she kind of knows this house, this other head housekeeper, and yeah, it's all kind of like mystery and how they all know each other. The FMC gets in a sort of kind of relationship with the like owner's son, who's similar age to her, and yeah, it's all a bit weird. I don't know how else to describe it. She keeps getting sent these like mysterious packages of like dioramas, and she's not obviously sure who's sending them, and they're quite disturbing. Like, they're like dioramas of like pictures of like her dying in like the hallways and stuff, and I don't know, or people dying and stuff, and it's very disturbing, as you can imagine. And she's trying to kind of solve that and why people keep sending her this stuff. There was just a lot going on but yet not a lot going on. It's a very weird book, and honestly the first few chapters I remember quite enjoying, and then after that I was like, this is a bit, and I hate saying this, but it just got a bit far-fetched. Sometimes a book just goes a bit over the top, and I felt like this did that, especially towards the end. Towards the end I was almost in actual disbelief. I was like, this would never happen. It was just far-fetched. I don't know what else to say. The only reason I gave it a 2-star is because I did actually like some of the aspects of the mystery. I thought that was quite good, and the premise itself was fairly interesting. There were bits that kept me going, and I kind of did want to see where it was going. It wasn't to the point where I was like, I just don't care about this book. It's a very skippable book. Like I said, I barely really remember it. I just remember it being over the top, and I think there was a bit at the end, I think part of the house burns down or something, and it just felt over the top. It felt so stupid, and there were like secret passageways, and like, I don't know, I felt like there was too much going on, like the author was doing too much. And it's like, you know, I think if they just scaled back a lot, it would be a lot more interesting, I think, personally. And the writing was quite good, and the pace was very good, actually. It was very good pacing, but apart from that, yeah, I was just disappointed with this. Normally I quite like this author, but this was Entangled by Harleigh Beck. I technically gave this no stars, and that's probably the first book I've ever given no stars to, but obviously on Goodreads it demands a rating, so I gave it 1 star. And I have to have a bit of a backstory with this, because you're probably thinking, well, why did you choose this? And I'll tell you why. So this author, I have read from her before. She's known to do dark romances, and I have enjoyed them before, so of course I go onto the backlist, and this is what came up. I feel like a bit of a hypocrite saying this, so I keep saying this on my channel, and yeah, I have read quite a few now, but this was a novella. Now normally I don't read novellas, I don't tend to like novellas, but I didn't know that, and then it was too late, and I'd already bought it on my Kindle, so I was like, we're doing this. It's about a girl. What's the fucking girl's name? Can't remember her name. Let's call her Jane, right? I can't remember. So Jane is, I think, when this book starts, she's about 17, I think, roughly, and she has a best friend. Now her best friend lives opposite her. Spoiler, her best friend dies, but she kind of goes missing, and then they find out that she actually died, I think. I can't remember, but I don't actually remember her. Oh no, she does die. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to give spoilers on this, because I feel like I can't explain this properly without it. So yeah, I struggled to explain this in my last one because it's so fucked up. I don't know where to start. It does a lot of flashbacks from when they were very young and how they first met, like as friends, and that was kind of sweet, and I liked that. So this is best friend's dad. So obviously this friend is in love with, or fancies, her friend's dad, right, who's obviously a lot older, all that stuff, you know. Obviously it's like a taboo relationship, taboo romance and all that stuff. Scenes were very rushed, and they were very, very weird. For example, one scene, so the town had gone to a candlelit vigil for this girl that had presumably, I think by this point, I think she's still missing. People don't really know if she's dead or what, they just don't know, but they hold a candlelit vigil for her, so the whole town comes together. Immediately after the girl goes across the road to the dad and is like, oh yeah, it's really sad about your daughter, oh come in, because obviously they've known each other, and this is even disturbing. The dad has known obviously both of his the girls, like his daughter and his friend, since they were little, so that's even weirder, and the fact that it's his daughter's age as well, you know. Anyway guys, you know how it goes. And she goes down there, and he's like, do you want me to basically, I can't say it, do an intimate act straight after? And I'm like, sir, your daughter is missing, and she might actually be dead, and she's like a minor. What are you doing? Like, what are you doing with your daughter's best friend? Guys, I couldn't. And I was like, that was the first scene where I was like, this isn't it. One scene that really just, I literally went fuck off, because there was a scene where they were like driving around somewhere, and they were getting all hot and heavy and turned on. This is the girl and the best friend's dad, right? I can't remember their names. They were driving around, and he was like, do you want to like have sex? Sorry, I sound like a little kid. I sorry if I keep saying, like, I don't know how much YouTube will censor, so I'm going to say sex. You know what I mean. Do you want to have sex, right? Obviously he says it a lot better than that and all the rest of it, but she's like, yeah, okay. So they go to this random forest area where it's quite secluded, and obviously they start doing stuff, and then a random guy, and I mean a random guy, joins in and is like, first of all he starts watching, and then he's like, oh, I want to join and all this. So yeah, threesome happens. And what really irks me about this is just the absolute, sure, yeah, right, first of all, but secondly, it was like, she kept saying, like, we kept having emphasis on the fact that she's a virgin, the fact that obviously she's never done anything intimate before with a guy or with anyone and all the rest of it. So all of a sudden she's really into all of this. It made no sense. Guys, what? She had no experience. And this is like only her second time. I think it was even the first time she had sex with him, if you know what I mean. Which is bizarre. Like, never having sex before and then being into very dominant BDSM type sex is bizarre to me. Like, I don't know, guys. Is it me? I hated this. I hated this. In all seriousness, what actually pissed me off about this more than anything is the fact that, again, this is a very sensitive subject. This is a very taboo subject. This is a very kind of out there subject, let's be honest now. And for an author to treat it like it's like a fun little smutty thing, okay, but like you still have to handle this in a somewhat sensitive nature. Like, okay, you have to like say the consequences of this. There was none of that, okay? And I get it's a novella, but I feel like with a book like this, you can't make that a novella. You just can't. It has to be a story. It has to show consequences to actions that have been taken. It has to show that the trauma involved in this. And like, okay, you could argue both of them were clearly grieving, all the rest of it. And like, yeah, but like there was none of that. There was none of really they didn't really talk about their daughter all that, her daughter, his daughter, whatever, the daughter. I can't remember the name, but they didn't even talk about her really, barely at all. She was barely mentioned. It was almost like an afterthought in the book, and it was like, and then when it got back to it, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that his daughter's actually missing and or dead, you know, like. And then it turned out, and this is a massive spoiler, so yeah, if I haven't already convinced you not to read this, then sorry. Do you know what happens at the end? We find out that the friend actually killed his daughter because she was jealous or something. Like, what the fuck are you on about? It made no sense. It was just stupid. It was dumb. The author kept making a point of reminding the reader that like, oh, she turns 18 soon. Like, it's my 18. I'm practically 18. I turn 18 next week. Even so, right, just because it's legal doesn't mean it's morally right, okay? Just because you're legally of age doesn't mean it's morally right. Like, I am a true believer in that. Like, okay, she's 18 next week, have sex and do all these sexual acts. Yeah, I wasn't buying it. And the fact that he's like 3 times her age, I don't know exactly how old he was. I think it was hinted that he was in his like 40s or 50s, but even so, to me, that's irrelevant. It's so inappropriate. It's so, you know, especially as he knew her at such a young age. Guys, I couldn't. This book should be burned in hell, and then hell burned with it, because it's just all, it was on. I'm not even saying this like as a laughy jokey thing. It was honestly awful. Like, it was actually offensive, because it was like, you're taking, like I said, quite a serious subject matter and making a mockery of it. And I get it, it was a novella, you know, it's not a story, it couldn't go into like a long-winded discussion. I totally get that, but there has to be some consequence. There has to be something, but there was absolutely nothing. It was just giving us nothing other than like smut and like, yeah, get with your friend's dad because clearly he wants to get with you. That's enough of that. The Games You Played by Anni Taylor. So I gave this a, what have I given this? I think I gave this a 2-star. I can't actually find, I haven't put it in my notes, but I'm pretty sure I gave this a 2-star, but again, very low 2-star. Again, if you see my vlogs and stuff, you'll probably recognise it from there. This is about a missing toddler that goes missing in Australia. I believe it's Sydney Harbour as well, if I remember. What are the mum and dad's names? Luke and Phoebe? Oh my god, why is it all coming back to me? That's rare. I genuinely thought this was going to be a 3 or 4 star, and as it went on, it just became more and more ridiculous, because essentially what had happened is, who was responsible for Tommy the toddler's disappearance? One of Phoebe's friends. That's all I'm going to say, and that's probably a spoiler enough as it is. But it's a little bit more complicated than that. It's a little bit more nuanced than that. A lot of things just didn't make sense. There were a lot of plot holes. There were a lot of kind of inconsistencies. One of them being, and this was the big one for me, so it was a really odd inconsistency as well, because it almost hinted that Phoebe, the FMC, the mother of this missing toddler child, Tommy, had like almost supernatural abilities. It said it quite early on in the book that Phoebe had this really strong sense of smell. So strong that she could smell like coffee on paper of like where that person had been. So for example, she kept getting these like kind of weird letters and messages that kept going through her door, right, to do with Tommy's disappearance, and they like hint things and like mess with her mind, and she could smell traces of coffee, and she knew where that coffee came from. She knew it was from the coffee, she knew that distinct coffee, she knew it was the one that was down the road. She smelled traces of it, and she went there to try and like find out if she could see like who the person was writing these letters, and obviously she didn't, but it was things like that, and she kept hinting at like how she was really good at that, and like she could like sniff traces. Well, how come if that's the case, and your friend was having a affair with your husband, you didn't smell traces of her on him, or like hints of her perfume or something, or her scent or whatever? Like, you get what I'm trying to say here, right? Like, and they were having an affair for a long time, by the way, and you never smelt that. And again, towards the end, it became very far-fetched. I think they ended up moving to like, well, I say them, the bloody Tommy the toddler and what was it, her friend, I can't remember her friend's name, and her husband moved to like an island off Sydney, off Australia, to hide out. And the only reason I gave it a low 2 stars is because I actually genuinely wanted to find out what happened to Tommy. Like, I was like, poor Tommy, like, I actually felt for him. He was kind of sweet, and I was like, where is Tommy? I am interested in knowing where Tommy was. But that was it. Like, that was it. That was the only reason I gave it 2 stars. Does It Hurt by H.D. Carlton? Again, H.D. Carlton comes up for me. I think I just have to realise that H.D. Carlton, apart from the Haunted Adeline series, maybe just isn't for me. But I gave this 2 stars. It's a very low 2 stars. So this is about 2 characters, 2 love interests, called Sawyer and Enzo. Sawyer is a little bit chaotic, to say the least. She ends up running away from America to Australia because she's meant to be on the run, basically, and how she manages to get free passport control. Yeah, you just have to, already you have to suspend your disbelief. You already have to do that. The author's already asking you to do that. So anyway, I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. And I think she ends up getting a fake passport or something. But how she goes about doing that, actually, now it's bringing it back to me, is just stupid. It's like, that would never cross border control, like, no way. But anyway, you have to go with it. She escapes to Australia, and that's where she meets Enzo. Now, Enzo's some sort of shark researcher. He researches shark, and he goes out on his boat and he does a little research on these little sharkies. Well, they're not little, actually, they're quite big, but anyway, he does all that, and he loves marine life, especially sharks. That's his thing. He loves sharks. He's a shark guy. He's a shark dude. He's a shark boy. He meets her, they meet, and they meet at a bar. And what makes me laugh is because she's literally just met this guy, and they're kind of eyeing each other, and then he like goes up to her and she's like, hey, and then she basically tells him her whole life story. She leaves out some little things, but she basically more or less pulls her heart out to him. And I'm like, you're on the run. You're on the run. And why would you do that? I know you've gone to the other side of the world, so you're like, oh, and she even says that, oh, I've gone to Australia, like, no one's gonna look for me here, I've got no connections here. I'm like, yeah, but I wouldn't do that. Like, that is so not smart. Like, that is the dumbest thing. You wouldn't do that. And that pissed me off firstly. I was like, I would never do that. But she's like, oh, I just crave human connection, it's been so long. And I'm like, I get that, but like, you could literally make his new identity. And she starts telling stuff. I think she does use a fake name and stuff, but still, I'm like, girl, no, like, you should not be doing this. They meet, and then she steals his credit card or something, because they end up sleeping together or doing some sexual act where she ends up sleeping with him. So she steals his credit card. Now, she is a bit naughty, she just spends some money on that, but it's not like, I think it's like £400, right? And or for whatever the equivalent is in Australia, $400, I don't know what it is, right? And I'm like, okay, a couple of hundred basically. I'm like, yeah, that's a lot of money, sure, like, it is a lot of money, but it's not like thousands. It's not like, oh my god, like, she spent thousands. Like, yeah, 400 quid, I get it, it's a lot of money. But I'm like, the way he goes about this, you would think she'd literally robbed his house and like left him pennies. Like, the way he's insane. Like, Enzo's just as crazy. They actually do deserve each other because he's fucked up just as like she is. And he, like, instead of just going to the police, freezing his bank card, doing all the normal things, you know, a person would do, what does he do? He decides to like hunt her down himself, and he decides to like exact revenge on her. So anyway, they end up finding each other again. She's like, oh, and he's kind of calling her bluff. Anyway, long story short, he's like, do you want to go on the boat with me? And she's like, sure, okay. Like, I there's obviously a bit more nuance in that, but I'm just going to do very basic here because I could go on about this for fucking ever. So she goes on the boat with him. Long story short, this is a very long story short. He ends up getting an SEX act with her, let's just say that, and as part of this SEX act, he starts dunking her head into the fucking shark infested water. I'm no shark expert, but like, you would die because the sharks are in a feeding frenzy, and like, I know it's slightly away from them, but she would die. She would have her head off, like, she would be decapitated by sharks. And it's meant to be thrilling and fun, but I'm like, he's an abuser, he's abusive, like, that's not fun. And she's like so say consenting to this, but I'm not buying that she is, because there are certain things she does and says, and he's just kind of ignoring her, and she's like, I don't like this, and he's like, oh, you do? And it's like, oh, I don't like that kind of talk in books. So anyway, there's that. And then they end up basically stranded on this island, and it's got a lighthouse, and they meet a guy on there who's the lighthouse keeper called Sylvester. Now, I am going to be probably a little bit problematic or somewhat controversial when I say this, because I actually was quite interested in Sylvester as a character. I thought he sounded quite interesting, but what did the author do? They made him a flipping perv. Like, they made him a perv. He was perving on her all the time. He was a creepy old man with a peg leg, you know, and that, I just thought, oh, fuck off. Like, he sounded quite interesting, and obviously he was a creepy guy. He ended up being creepy, but I thought, you know what? I feel like the author had an opportunity here to make it actually quite interesting and spooky, because there were like some kind of like ghostly, spiritual kind of thing going on in the lighthouse. They kept thinking they saw ghosts and like hearing noises and stuff at night, and I feel like they could have done more with that, and the author could have done more. I feel like that's where like they really let the author really just didn't bother with it, and I feel like that's what really could have made this book better. But yeah, like make it more of a mystery, because he was quite an interesting character. Yes, he was a perv and he was disgusting, but like he was interesting. He had some backstory, and this does get revealed to the reader as obviously the story progresses. Somebody had put something that it was a disjointed collection of ideas, and I have to agree with that 100%. It just felt like there was ideas that would just come in, like, you know, she had too many ideas and she just put them, but they never fit. They didn't click together. They weren't clicking. They were sticking, but they weren't clicking. Do you know what I mean? It's like they were just horrible. It was just, it made no, again, it was a book that just made no sense. Enzo was borderline, if not completely abusive anyway to her. You know, we were meant to fall in love with them, and I think she ended up getting pregnant at the end of the book, and I was like, oh, you guys are fucking horrible. Like, I just hated them. And like, I can't remember her name, Sawyer, the FMC, she fucking pissed me off. It's like, I'm so quirky, and it was just so annoying, because it was like, she had tattoos and she like made that her whole personality, and she's like, I'm so quirky, I'm so weird, I'm so cool, and it's like, girl, you're just annoying. Like, you're actually you're annoying. Like there was a scene where, I think this is before she came to Australia or something, she met this guy at a bus stop, and he was like just doing tattoos, right, as you do, and he's like a kind of older guy, he's like middle-aged, and she's like, oh cool, like, yeah, I want a tattoo, and like it was kind of sweet, like they were bonded. But then she was like, yeah, he's my best friend. And I'm like, what? And throughout the book she kept going like, he's my best friend. And I'm like, you met this guy once, he gave you a tattoo, and she like thought he was her best friend. I think there's something wrong with that girl. Like, I don't know, she's weird. Like, she's weird, and she's trying to be all quirky, and like there were things that she kept saying to like Enzo, and like to try and sound quirky and cool, and I'm like, you sound like an idiot. Like, you sound like an idiot. Actually, I'm starting to wonder why I gave this 2 stars now, but I think the only good thing, if I remember, it had a really fantastic cover, and I'm sure you've got the picture up there now, and I really did like that front cover. It was actually beautiful, I will say that, and I will give that high praise. I really did like that front cover. Whoever did the illustration to that, like, I feel sorry for you, man, because this book's shit, but that fucking illustration was beautiful. There were certain elements of it I did kind of like I liked the mystery of them being on the lighthouse. I think that could have been really interesting, and I was just so disappointed because I feel like that could have really gone somewhere with Sylvester, and I feel like I wish she didn't make him a creep. I wish he was just actually kind of like cool and a bit weird, maybe. I get that, but does he have to be pervy? Does he have to be weird? And then there was this whole thing where like he had a secret daughter, they ended up finding her, and then like she kind of took on this secret daughter's identity. It was all stupid, it was all weird, it was all stupid, it made no sense. There was inconsistencies, God knows, everywhere. Some of the sex scenes weren't terrible. The author's fairly good at doing that, but it felt like there were just too many. I know that sounds maybe a bit stupid or prudish of me, because it's a dark romance type of book, but it really was nearly on every page, and I was just bored. Maybe this is 1 star. I'm starting to think now, why did I give this 2 star? I do think though, because this has obviously got heavy enemies to lovers, and I do think if you're a fan of enemies to lovers, you will get on with this better than what I did. Personally, I don't tend to like enemies to lovers. It's a very low 2 star, but I think, like I said, there were kind of a mystery in it, and like they kept hearing bangs at night and they didn't know what it was, and I was quite intrigued by that, actually. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, oh, what is that actually? That's kind of, you know, they knew it wasn't the lighthouse, they knew it sounded like people walking around and things like that. So yeah, that did get me in the kind of ghostly aspect. I'm not normally into that, but that did get me, and that was kind of creepy, I will admit. So I think that's why I gave it a very, like, just an extra star, because some people would really like love that. So this next one is called, and bear with me here because it's quite a long title, but it's called Sunderworld Volume 1, The Extraordinary Disappointment of Leopold Berry by Ransom Biggs. Oh, sorry, I said Biggs, didn't I? Ransom Riggs. Ransom Riggs is the author of Miss Peregrine's, which I still haven't read. I have watched the movie, but I want to read the book still. I gave this 2 stars. So this is a YA book, I think. Kind of science fiction, fantasy, I think it kind of edges on there. Now, when I was really excited to read this, because although I'm not a YA person, it had stuff in it that sounded quite cool. Like when I read the blurb, I was like, oh, that sounds kind of good. It was kind of dull, and it just was a bit boring, and I keep saying that, don't I? But yeah, it just was. So Leopold is known as Larry, although he doesn't technically like to be called that. A lot of his friends and family call him Larry, and this is about, there's some weird things that he lives in LA, and there's some weird things that he keeps like experiencing. He keeps seeing these weird things and like kind of supernatural, kind of mysterious things. And he's really into these old VHS tapes that I think his mum used to have, and it's based on a fantasy. It was a TV series aired in the 80s. It's not real, by the way, at least I don't think it is. And it's called Sunderworld, and he's really obsessed with it, but it wasn't really that popular in the 80s because it only ran for a very, very short time. I think there was only like something like 2 seasons or something. and he's really into it. He's like really obsessed with it. And anyway, he sees parts of this kind of world is coming to life around Los Angeles. So obviously he thinks he's going a bit mad, but eventually he realises it's real. The rest of it, I couldn't really tell you what it was about, because honestly, I was struggling to read this. It got me in a bit of a slump. I was struggling to follow it. I think this could just be a me problem, I will admit that. But I just didn't really care. And the characters were just kind of, they were fine, but they weren't anything spectacular. I wasn't really attached to any of them. I will say that the MMC, Larry, I'm just going to call him because I'm not quite sure how you pronounce his first name. I think it's Leopold, I'm not sure. I think why I connected to him slightly more is because, again, you know, this is the thing about the dead mum. His mum died, and obviously, you know, if you watch my channel, my mum died when I was 18. So, you know, I could connect to certain things he was saying. I felt quite a kinship with him, and he was kind of going on how it's been difficult for his family and how he feels more distant from his family since his mum died and all that stuff. So I did relate a lot to that, but that was really only it, and that's why I ended up only really giving it 2 stars, was just because I did relate sometimes with his feelings on that, and he was very real about that, and I did appreciate that. But that was it. And again, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, like, I did kind of put it on my TBR because I like the sound of it and I like the vibes. I thought, oh, it seems like a kind of 80s retro vibe, but it really wasn't like that. The first few chapters I remember being quite good, and I was almost quite, oh, this is really good. I gave it 2 stars because, yeah, like, it, you know, wasn't really working for me, but also because I can recognise, again, this is why I give this rating, is because someone who's really into that, I think, if you're really into science fiction or really into fantasy, I think you would have a better time with this than I did. So yeah, it's just a little bit disappointed. That's all of the books, well, the worst of the worst anyway. And the rest that I haven't mentioned on the good or bad list is just fine. They're very, like, mediocre. They're just fine, mostly. Maybe some better than others, but you know, if you want me to do a list on that, I can. If you want me to list all the books I read in 2025, I can do that. I mean, it would be a very long video, but I don't mind doing that. But let me know if you agree or disagree with my comments, and let me know what have been your worst books this year, what have been your best books this year, what would you definitely not recommend I or others read. Oh, I haven't said, have I? So the worst book I read so far this year, I think you guys know, it has to be Entangled by Harleigh Beck. It's just not good. It's not good, baby. It's not good. As you know, it's just, there's no prize for it. It's just that you are named and shamed. I'm sorry. I'd be interested though, if you guys really liked that book, then let me know, and let me know why, because what's wrong with you? I don't want to shit on this author too much though, because there have been books, like I said, that I have actually enjoyed from her, so it was just, baby, you should have kept that in the drafts, do you know what I mean? Thanks guys for watching, and yeah, I shall see you as always in the next video, so thank you.